everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Bones Collector. Man, it's been a while since I did a video, and so I thought, well, I'm going to get something published today. So we were talking about what kind of video we can make, and we decided we were going to do top 10 worker placement games, and I was flabbergasted to realize I've never done a worker placement video. So I'm happy to be able to do that today because I have some tremendous games in my library that use worker placement as a mechanic. And it's one of my favorite things to do. One thing I do want to point out is all the games I'm going to talk to you about today, we purchased. We don't get any games from publishers, so I want to make sure that I acquire those games the same way you are going to acquire them, and that's by giving somebody my hard-earned cash. So most of the time, I try to play them first. So I utilize my local game store to go and play games that they have available to the public there. You can go in and play usually, and go to conventions and play games without buying them. And that's always a great resource for you to try to play games so that you don't waste your money, get that game in your house, dislike it, and try to sell it. It's very difficult to do. So hey, yeah, I wanted to make sure you understood that. You know, and of course big channels like Dice Tower and Rado, they are always getting free games, and then they always have, you know, there's money changing hands there, so it's going to influence the things that they tell you. And that's not a bad thing. I'm really happy for what Dice Tower and Rado have done for board gaming as a hobby. They've done a lot for it to make it an interesting way to spend your time, but you have to take everything they say with a grain of salt because of that cash flow. Here we just buy games, my wife and I, and we talk about them if we really love them, and that's what we're going to do today. Enough about that. So the first couple of games I'm going to talk about for worker placement games are easy worker placement games that I keep all the time in my library. I've had them for years, and they're not going anywhere for this very reason. Now, because whenever I try to teach a game to somebody, you want to make it a game that is fun and light so that they can learn it and pick up the rule set rather quickly, because you don't want them to have an uncomfortable time trying to think. And the games I'm talking about, of course, are Lords of Waterdeep and Pillars of the Earth. Now, at one point, I used to keep Stone Age for teaching an easy Euro-style worker placement game. But I like these two just a little bit better, so we kept these and moved on Stone Age, which is still a good game. And another good worker placement game to teach people that is new is Flamecraft. I meant to get it out and I didn't do it, but Flamecraft's another one with a nice cute theme, nice and colorful, fun-looking game, and you can teach people worker placement. But hey, this Pillars of the Earth game, they were blowing out on Amazon, you know, maybe sometime during last year, for $19. And I thought, man, that's a great game for somebody, because you hear so much about new games and Kickstarter games, and all of that stuff costs a ton of dough. And they want you to pay up front, first of all, on Kickstarter. You're giving them your money up front. Yeah, give us $200 and here's what you get in 2 years, 3 years, if it fulfills. And that's a gamble, first of all, and it's very expensive, second of all. So to be able to acquire a game that works great, that is fun to play, that is interesting, is Pillars of the Earth and Lords of Waterdeep. But in Pillars of the Earth, when they were giving that game away really for $19, it's something that people could pick up, and you want to tell them, I wanted to shout to people, hey, buy that game if you like playing a board game. It's light, you can learn it easily and play it, and you will enjoy it. But this guy that designed this game, Michael Reineck, is a very good board game designer, and I know a lot of people don't pay attention to the designer of board games, but trust me, some designers are a lot better than others, and if you can follow them around and look at their games, a lot of times they are more likely to produce a game that you're going to like than someone who hasn't produced any board games that you've liked, that maybe is their first board game they've designed. And so it's another resource you can use to help you find good games, I guess is what I'm saying. Now in Pillars of the Earth, it's a worker placement game. That's why it's on this list. And it works well even at the 2-player count. There's a 2-player variant that's on BGG. You can download the rules, and it works excellent. Lori and I love to play it. And you're drawing these workers out of a bag and placing them on worker placement spots on the board and resolving them. Now, it has a cathedral that you're building, and that's going to be your round counter, and that's interesting, and it's fun to look at and build. So whoever's first player is going to take a piece of that cathedral, and when the round is done, you're going to place that on the center of the board and eventually build that whole building, and that's pretty fun to do. And the game itself flows wonderfully. You're going to be using cards and building up a tableau of cards, acquiring resources off the board and so forth. I mean, it's just a fun time for 2 to 4 players, and it's been around quite a while, and I enjoyed the movie also. So that's Pillars of the Earth. The other easy game I wanted to talk about that you can teach people is Lords of Waterdeep, and this takes place in the Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms universe, I think it's called. And the art in this game is beautiful. It has a wonderful insert in the box that helps you organize the game and set the game up and take it down. And Lori and I have tricked this out, and it comes with cubes, of course, but we bought the little meeples of the right colors to go in here. And the board has worker placement spots on it, but you're going to be acquiring buildings that give you extra worker placement spots, and just placing your workers there, taking those actions, trying to acquire quest cards and complete them. And it's just a fun time to do and play this game. Now, Lori didn't like the board because she always thought it was ugly, but I talked her into getting this game finally, and she's glad she did because she really likes it also. Because again, you can get this to the table very easily, and that matters. For most people, you don't have a large block of time that you can sit down at a gaming table for 4, 6, 8 hours and play a game. This can be done in 45 minutes, and it's fun to play, easy to teach, and that's Lords of Waterdeep. All right, a couple of other games I wanted to talk about today that the reason I wanted to talk about them is nobody talks about them, and that's kind of fun to do sometimes. And these 2 games have something in common, not just the fact that they're worker placement games, but because they can be acquired very cheaply. And I like that. And these are both deluxe editions. You can get them very inexpensively on Board Game Geek. You type in the game, scroll down, it'll say buy a copy, and there's a lot of people trying to sell their copies on Board Game Geek. I looked up both of these before I started this video. I think there's a copy of Neta-Tonka Deluxe on BGG for $25, and I think there's a $35 copy of Tungaro Deluxe. Both of these games are published wonderfully. They're great to look at. The pieces in them are outstanding. This Neta-Tonka box is very heavy, and it has dual layer player boards. And the reason why this is kind of a fun game is this is the designer of Shakespeare. If you've played Shakespeare, it's one of the best little Euro games I've ever played. It's outstanding. He designed Shakespeare, and he did this game also. And in this game, you're going to take turns placing them on the board, and then you're going to resolve all of one player's workers at a time. And that's significant in this game. The other thing that you can do in this game is it has these things where you can link spaces together and get both actions. So that is very cool. So you're just trying to become the village Neta-Tonka is what you're trying to do, but you're hunting in this game and gathering meat and mushrooms, building tents, and there's just so much to enjoy about Neta-Tonka. Nobody talks about this game. R.V. Regal is the name of the designer, but it's something, again, a fun worker placement game. There's a little bit going on in this game. It's not hard to learn. It's a good time and a lot of fun and beautiful to look at on the table, and that's Neta-Tonka Deluxe. Next game I'm going to talk about is Tungaro Deluxe. This game is designed by Louis and Stefan Maltz with art by Andrew Bosley. Of course, Andrew Bosley has done the art in so many board games, and Louis and Stefan Maltz are great board game designers. You might know them from a game called Rococo. They were co-designers with Matthias Kramer, I believe, and that's a wonderful game. But in this game, pieces in it are beautiful, and it's a dice worker placement game. So at the beginning of the turn, the first player is going to roll 3 dice. He's going to take those dice, whatever values they come up with, and put them in his canoe. Now everybody has to take their dice and turn them to those values that that first player rolled, put those in their canoe, and those are the dice everybody's going to use in that particular round. Now, wherever your canoe happens to be on the board, you're going to have access to 2 islands. And those are where you're going to have to place those workers unless you move your canoe. So in your hand, you're going to have 5 cards, different workers that have different names on them. You're going to use those cards to decide what you're going to do that round. But you're going to decide, oh, see, I need to move my canoe. Do I have movement on there? I need to get pearls. Can I get some pearls with this card? So there's going to be a little bit of AP in this game, because deciding first of all what values are on the dice and how you can best use those, and you're also trying to figure out what you're going to do as far as what selection you're going to make, which card you're going to play for that particular round. And once you play that card at the end of the round, it goes to the next player. So you may give up a card that does something you really need at a later time, but eventually you'll get it back. But man, it's hard to give that up for a few turns. But this game is outstanding. There's so much to like about it. I think what people don't understand about this game is all about end game bonuses. And you're going around these islands and you're trying to gather resources or do whatever things you have to do to acquire those nomads off those islands, because they're multipliers and they give you points at the end of the game for how well you've gotten the things that they're multiplying. So you can just go crazy scoring points if you get multiples of the same nomad. And I don't think people understand that that's the way this game works. It's an outstanding design by these guys. It says 60 to 90 minutes. Lori and I play this in an hour, but it's just outstanding. There's so much to appreciate about this game. And first of all, it's got a smaller board. I mean, I've learned to appreciate boards that aren't overwhelming on my table. I've sold games that were just table hogs. One of the games I want to mention that eats your table that we got rid of is Pulsar 2849. I really like that game. It's a dice game from Vladimir Suki, I believe, who is an outstanding board game designer, and I love that game. But it just was so big on the table, I couldn't see across the table to see what was there, and it just interferes with gameplay sometimes. So I learned to appreciate smaller boards. That's what you have in Tungaro. The game is outstanding. It's in my top 100 games of all time. I love playing this game. We played it 2-player. It can be acquired cheaply, again, and that is pretty cool for a deluxe copy of a game. Go get it, you guys. You'll appreciate it and you'll like it. And that's Tungaro Deluxe. Those are two games you can get real cheaply. Now I'm going to jump in with both feet and talk about a game that is huge, and there's a lot going on in this game. And this game is designed by Vito Lacerda, an outstanding board game designer. And most of his games are big, heavy Euros like this one. Now, Lori and I have only played 5 of his games. And we owned all 5 of those games. Escape Plan, Gallerist, Venus Deluxe, Lisboa, and this one. And we liked all of those games. But for our gaming taste, we decided we're only going to keep one. We sold the other 4 and kept this one, Kanban EV, because we like the automotive theme. And in this, you have a worker placement track that runs down the center of the board, and you're going to resolve those in order. So where you put your worker matters. Each worker placement space is relative to a department in this factory. And this is an economic game, and you're actually acquiring parts and designs to build cars. You feel like you are running an auto shop, and I love that about Kanban EV. We had the original Kanban, and it was fun to play. Same game, so we enjoyed that very much. But when they turned over to the electric vehicle, the EV, of course, that's just an improved way for people to get around. Less harmful to the planet, and we thought, hey, that's a great idea. Let's pick up that new copy, which we did, and we enjoy playing this game by Vito Lacerda. It takes a full 90 minutes to play, and with his games, if you don't play them but once a year, it's going to take a rules review to get it to the table, and that's kind of why we got rid of the other 4 if we only want one game this heavy. So that's Kanban EV. Outstanding worker placement game, though. All right, well, now what do I want to talk about? Okay, let's talk about a couple of games that really don't do anything new in worker placement, but the theme of them is so much fun. And yeah, and that's Dune Imperium, Abomination, and Everdell Farshore. Let's talk about these one at a time. Everdell Farshore, I think, is a 2023 release. I'm not sure, but I think it is. Now, Everdell, of course, everybody's played Everdell at hobby board games. Most people have had exposure to that. Everdell is a cute little worker placement game where you're gathering resources and building a tableau of cards. Hey, simple enough. Same with Everdell Farshore. We stayed away from Everdell. We played it, liked it, but the font size on the cards was not something that we could read. It was too small, and it stopped us from ever getting that game. So we waited for them to come out with Far Shore, and I asked somebody, hey, did they increase the font size on the cards? They said absolutely. So Lori and I played at a convention. We loved the game, but it had a $99 price point on it, which was way too high for us. So we waited, and eventually the price came down. We got it for $60 on Amazon, but it's a wonderful game. I love playing it, you know, just acquiring those little cute animal cards. The art's fantastic. Building that engine in front of you to score as many points as you can by the end of the game. And it's just beautiful to look at, and that's Everdell Far Shore. Outstanding worker placement game. This worker placement game, Abomination, is so much fun. I didn't know if I would like it, but it's just a straightforward worker placement game at its heart. But the theme of this game is what makes this thing the heartbeat in here. You are building Frankenstein's monster on your player board. You're going to acquire flesh at varying stages of decomposition, I guess. And that flesh that you acquire will decompose if you don't use it. And that's frustrating. But you're gathering those tissues and so forth to try to put together that monster on your player board. Hard to do. And some of the worker placement spots that you can go to are like the dark alley where you can murder somebody and get really fresh meat, or you can go to a public hanging and get fresh meat, or you can get meat that's kind of been in the ground a while and go to the graveyard and dig something up. And when you bring that into your play area, of course you're not going to have much time to use that to make a part for your monster because it's going to decay quicker because you got it out of the graveyard. But those kinds of things are so much fun in this game, and it's hilarious to play it. I mean, we just can't stop laughing when we play this game. Just some of the worker spots you can go to, you're just laughing like crazy. But I love the art and illustration in this game. It does have a short version of the game on BGG you can download. I mean, I play the short and the long, I don't care. I'm having fun the whole time I'm playing this game, and it's outstanding. And I'm thankful for this guy. Dan Blanchett was the designer of this game, published by Plaid Hat. And I picked this game up, and we absolutely loved playing it. The price point was perfect. I think it was like 42 bucks. And it's published wonderfully, and there's dice rolling in it. Just a fun game, and it's called Abomination. Okay, another worker placement game. It really doesn't do anything special with worker placement, but the game itself is a blast, and this IP is Dune Imperium. It's by Dire Wolf, who's done a really good job with board games in the last 4 years. I mean, this one's very popular. Clank Catacombs, Wild Tiled West, and Invincible is the other game by Dire Wolf that's outstanding if you haven't played that. But yeah, Dune Imperium, Laura and I love to play this game. It's a race to 10 points, kind of a deck building game and worker placement, acquiring, you know, spice and the things that are in the Dune universe. And we play this game with no expansions. It's wonderful just like this. You don't have to get any expansions for this game to make this game good. At 2 players, it's really, really good. And I think I was reading on here. Yeah, it's got 200 plus cards in this box already. Dune Imperium, an outstanding game in the Dune universe, if you love that, which I do. So yeah, if you haven't played this, which I'm probably sure you have, it's an outstanding game. It's in my top 100 all time, absolutely. So, all right, now I want to talk about a game that I just got not that long ago, maybe a year ago, called Raiders of Scythia. Now this was a wonderful worker placement game that is kind of, this is kind of a rebuild of Raiders of the North Sea by Shem Phillips, who is the designer of this game. I liked Raiders of the North Sea a lot, but you had to, I mean, it had a couple of expansions and people raved about the expansions making the game so much better. Well, you know, by the time you do all that, you're going to have $100 and some into the game. I got this game, and it was Raiders of the North Sea just reworked a little bit, and with some of that expansion material already in the box. And Lori and I played this game and fell in love with it, and it has beautiful custom dice that you roll when you're doing raiding. And I mean, I like that in my Euro games. I love dice in my Euro games because it brings randomness, and I love a little randomness in my games. I like rolling those dice because sometimes I can beat a guy that's smarter than me because I get a good dice roll. And I love that, you know? So I just really, really like Raiders of Scythia because it brings that to the forefront. And again, it uses the same mechanic, place a worker, take a worker, that you saw in Raiders of the North Sea. This box is so packed. I mean, I'll take the lid off of it. I wasn't going to do that today, but I mean, you couldn't get anything else in that box. It comes with metal coins. The art in this game also is fabulous by I think it's his brother, Sam Phillips. and I like it so much better. The West Kingdom series, I played all those games, and they were fine. I just didn't really care for the art. I like the art in Raiders of Scythia, and I think in Ezra and Nehemiah, one of their newer games, I kind of like the art in that game too. But just a fabulous game. It just shot right up into my top 100. Lord, and I love playing this, those dual cards that you can use with the eagle and the horse. I just really, really love this game. That's Raiders of Scythia. Okay, I'm going to talk about some games that really do worker placement well, and that's Manhattan Project Energy Empire and Istanbul. Now, Manhattan Project Energy Empire is by Luke Laurie and Tom Jolly. Now, of course, Luke Laurie is better known now for Dwellings of Eldervale, and Andromeda's Edge, I believe, is a new game that came out this year. I had Dwellings of Eldervale, and it uses kind of the same mechanic that Energy Empire uses when you place workers. And then when you bring them back in Dwellings of Eldervale, you get to do something also where you don't do that in Energy Empire. However, this game is fantastic, and I liked it better than Dwellings of Eldervale, so I sold Dwellings of Eldervale and kept this. I love the theme in this. You are a world leader making decisions, trying to make your nation the most prosperous when it comes to new energy. And when you're placing workers in this game, if somebody places one worker, you have to place two. If somebody places two, you have to place three in order to do the action of that space. And that impacts the decisions that you make. This game comes with gorgeous custom dice that you be able to acquire, and you have to push your luck in this game. I love that because the better dice are going to pollute more, so that's going to count against you. And so you're trying to balance that pollution with the benefits that you're getting off those dice, and that's so much fun. Yeah, this game is published wonderfully. It's got metal, oil, barrels, and just some wonderful components in the game, and the game itself is an outstanding design. When I played it for the first time in 2016, I thought, man, that's one of the best games I've ever played. It's in my top 100, and it's still there. All right, this game is by Rudiger Dorn, one of the best board game designers ever. I mean, when you make a list of great board game designers, Rudiger Dorn's going to be on it. And he made Istanbul, and he made it for a guy like me. I love this game, man. And we have one expansion in here. It's Mocha and Bakish, I think it's called. And you can acquire coffee. It gives you one more resource to be able to acquire to get those gems. Because whoever gets 6 gems wins the game. And that's the goal of this game. It's a race. And the worker placement mechanic in it, you're going to have a stack of workers, round discs, and you can move 2 spaces. So you go 1, 2, and then you drop off a worker there and take that action. And then you have to leave that worker there. When your next turn, you're going to go 1, 2, and drop a worker in that space. And you're trying to get to these spaces around the board to do these different actions. So we have acrylic overlays from Etsy in this box that make it so beautiful to play, because let's face it, we like our board games to look nice on the table. I've gotten rid of great board games that look terrible. And I'll mention one, Milestones. There's a game that's by a good designer. It was a fun game to play. I had it in my library for a long time, but it was so bland looking on the table. There's just more fun to be had when your game looks pretty. But Istanbul looks great, and you don't have to have an expansion. If you just play the base game in this, it's outstanding. And again, this is by a board game designer that's got so many great board games, and I have several more from him in my library. Goa is probably one of his best known games from years ago that is outstanding. And then I have Runestones in my library, Luxor, Steam, Time. Wow. What a great board game designer, and Istanbul is in my top 20 games of all time. I love this from AEG. Laura and I can play this in an hour. Again, publishing's outstanding. I love running around those tiles on modular board because it makes me feel like I'm at a market in Istanbul, and it's what I ask of a board game. Take me to Istanbul. If you're going to call your game Istanbul, I want to feel like I'm there when I play the game. They did it. If you have played this game, man, you need to get it to the table, get an opportunity to play it. It's so much better than a lot of new games that everybody's raving about now. But Istanbul is outstanding. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about a game by some other wonderful designers. And that's Virginio Gigli and Flaminia Brasini with Simone Luciani. So this is wonderful Italian designers. They do outstanding board games. And This one is called Lorenzo Il Magnifico, and we have no expansions in this. We play this just the way it comes in this box. If you want a medium weight Euro and you love to just play a game that makes you think kind of hard, but is pretty easy to learn, try Lorenzo Il Magnifico. Now in this game, your workers are family members, and you have 3 dice that will be rolled before the round, black, white, and an orange, and whatever values are on those colored dice, your orange family member is going to be worth that orange value die. Your black family member is going to be worth that black value die, your white, and so on. So that's how this game works, and then you're building on your player board a tableau of cards that are going to give you things to help you score points in the game. I just love it. At the end of the round, you have to relay the card towers on the board, and that's a little bit fiddly, but I got over that, and I learned to enjoy this game from Simon, and it's called Lorenzo Il Magnifico, and every time I play this game, it just reinforces my love for it. And that's all of these games that I'm talking about. I mean, I keep them because I want that feeling again when I play this game. And I look at other new games when they come out, and I try to play them so I get an understanding of how they work, and nothing's replaced Lorenzo Il Magnifico for me. And I've seen this game for 25 bucks brand new. Yeah, so if you get a chance. And a lot of times, if you look around, older games, they're trying to get rid of them, and just, you know, type in the name of that game on YouTube and watch some people talk about it, somebody you trust, and see if they think that's a good game. And then, hey, for 20 bucks or 25 bucks because they're blowing it out, why not? I mean, what the heck? What did we just get on Amazon when they were blowing out?
Art Project.
Oh yeah, we just got a game called Art Project. They had that marked half off on Amazon. It's a cooperative game, and in it you are globetrotting, trying to recapture some of the art that's been stolen around the globe and get that back to where it belongs. And it has 3 boards in it, double-sided, so you have 6 maps. We've played all 6 maps. It's a fun, cooperative adventure game. And again, if you watch out, you'll be able to find a good bargain on good board games, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, the next game I want to talk about that's a standard in any worker placement library, and that's Raja the Ganges. And again, here's another example. Just outstanding board game designers. This is Inka and Marcus Brand, and I love Raja the Ganges. This is a medium weight Euro. Beautiful dice in this game. You're going to roll dice. Those are going to be your workers. And you have a player board where you're going to be doing some tile laying, and there's so much to think about in this game, so much to love and enjoy. And the scoring mechanism is very nice and unique, and I can't stop talking about this game. In this hobby, as in many hobbies, it's all about the new stuff. Channels that are getting paid to do that are pushing that new stuff. They rely on you spending your money on that. You know, that's how they make their living. So I like to tell you, you don't have to do that. If I ever talk to people that I work with that don't play board games, I always tell them about great bargains on great games. Games that are proven. Now what do I mean by that? A game that has stood the test of time, like Raja the Ganges. It's been out for quite a few years. It's a great game. Everybody has accepted that fact. It's popular, it's fun to play, and it's not going away. There's enough in this box, enough going on in this game, you'll never get sick of it. Every time you play it, you'll learn something new. The game will come out in a different way. You'll make different choices, and you just learn to fall in love with it all over again. That's Raja the Ganges by Inka and Marcus Brand, who did Village, by the way, which is another creative, wonderful board game. Okay. Yeah, so the next 2 games I'm going to talk about are by Uwe Rosenberg, and he does worker placement in a lot of his games, and the 2 I'm going to talk about are Etowah and Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small. Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, I'm going to guess off the top of my head, came out in 2011. Maybe not that early. I don't know what year it came out. Then they came out with a couple of expansions, and then they came out with this big box. And this is Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small big box. It has both expansions in this box. Inexpensive gaming, fun to play. We had Agricola, we had Caverna. When we got this big box of Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, and we got the Caverna Cave versus Cave big box, which is the little sister of Caverna, we sold both those big boxes, the Caverna box and the Agricola game, because we play primarily two-player. And these games play just as wonderfully as their big brothers, and we enjoy them very much. And in this game, you simply have workers, just like in the Big Brother. You're going to place those workers to acquire resources that you need to get animals, because it has animal husbandry in the game, so that those animals will breed and get more animals to score you more points. It's a really strict game. You have to have X number of these animals to score. And it even tells you, I believe, on the side of the box when you're playing, so you got the box sitting by you. Yeah, it's got a little chart here. It shows you how many you have to score. And so you're thinking, wow, I need to get some more of those, or I don't have enough. It's not going to work for me. That kind of thing. It gets very strict. And no matter how many times you play this game, when it's done, you're going to say, I needed one more turn. I love that about this game. It is just a wonderful game, and that's Uwe Rosenberg's All Creatures Big and Small Big Box. Two-player only. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Fields of Arla, which I own also. I just don't have it here at the house. And it's a two-player only worker placement game, but it's like a big Euro. So there's not many of those out there that are two-player only, is why I have that one. And it's a wonderful farming game about his hometown, I believe, Arla. But that's what that game's about, and it's an outstanding game if you haven't played it. This is Etowah. This came out a couple of years ago, and this is Uwe's game about taking care of the earth. I mean, and the fruit bat, and how important that fruit bat is to replanting deforested parts of Ghana in Africa. I mean, I got to take my hat off to Uwe for addressing an important subject that needs to be thought about. You know, I run into people, and you will too, who cares about pollution in the earth? I mean, there's people that feel that way. But hey, he made a game that addresses that. And Laura and I love playing this game, and it's got beautiful bats in it. You know, these wooden bats that you put in your community, because you're building a community and training families to understand the purpose and the importance of the fruit bat. And once those families are trained, you'll get more points for that. And in your community, you have to have a community big enough to put goats and plant trees to put fruit in the trees so that the bats can eat the fruit and then fly and poop the seeds down on the earth and plant trees. And everything in this game addresses the theme. I love that, and how that fruit bat and it's the process of the fruit bat in the ecology of that area in Africa, how important that is. Wow, what a fantastic game. When it first came out, Laura and I sat down, played it at a convention, and when you play a game at a convention, it's kind of difficult because you're going to grab a game out of the library, sit down at a table, and start reading the rule book. So you got to teach your game, and you want to do as many as you can because you're paying for that. You know, you paid admission to get in the convention, and you want to play as many games as you can. So, you know, we sit down, we read the rule book, we played this game, and I liked it. But when again, this is called advanced level game, it says right here. And in a game like this, you probably missed a few things. I probably missed a few things in the rules. So you're telling yourself, well, we played it, now how correctly did we play it? So we thought about it after a while and decided maybe we played it close enough. Let's get it and bring it home and play it some more. So we did. We played it over and over again. It's an outstanding board game design, again, that has a pertinent theme to today's world, and that's important to a guy like me that wants to leave the earth in as good a shape as I possibly can. So yeah, that's Etowah by Uwe Rosenberg. And Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small. Two outstanding games. And Fields of Arla is outstanding also. Now the two games I saved for last, you guys, are ones that are so unique in their worker placement that I want to talk about them separately, and that's Chimera Station and Hickory Dickory. And let's talk about Hickory Dickory first. Now, Hickory Dickory is exactly what it sounds like. It's a clock. Hickory Dickory Dock. The mouse rides on the clock. And your mice are your workers. You have 4 of them. They do different functions. They're going to hop on and off the minute hand of this clock. And that clock will go all the way around during the course of a round. So you're going to have to hop off of that arm in order to take an action at that particular number on the clock. The bad thing is the minute hand's going to move and leave you there. So your forward planning in this game is pretty rough. You're thinking, okay, now he got this, but I need to get him back on that clock and drop off at this space. And you have 4 of those guys you're thinking about. So it can be pretty daunting to try to figure out where and when you want those mice to hop on and off that clock. Not to mention, you can get bumped off that clock if the hand is full and somebody else goes to jump on it. Whoever is in the front, you get knocked off. So there's some parameters and things you can do that when that happens to you. But hey, an outstanding design and implementation of this clock by Sawyer West. What a great game. But I don't hear people talking much about it. I think I'm the only one that pushes Hickory Dickory. I love this game. It looks beautiful on the table. Publishing's outstanding. You have a set collection going on because some of the things you're going to require is getting these tiles that you're going to collect, and depending on what they are, you have a double layer player board that's in your play area. You're going to place those acrylic tiles on and score points for how well you do in that set collection. It's for 1 to 4 players, 10 and up. I don't know, it'd have to be a pretty smart 10-year-old. Just a right amount going on in here. I would call this a medium complexity game, not because there's a lot of rules, but because working that rondelle, that clock, with those mice jumping on and off and trying to plan ahead as to what you're going to do with that mouse when that minute hand comes back around can be pretty daunting. But that's Hickory Dickory. That's a creative way to use worker placement. I love this game. The other one I want to talk about is Chimera Station. 2 to 4 players. Lori and I can play this in an hour. And I know a lot of people are turned off by this cover art, and I don't know how I feel about it. I don't pay attention to it anymore because I'm in love with this board game. And this is a worker placement game where you can modify and build your workers. It's so wonderful and fun to be able to do that. You have components that you're going to put on your workers, and those workers are allowed to have 2 components. And there's these plastic components. So your worker starts out with just his head and his feet, and then you're allowed to put 2 components on that worker. One of them, this green thing with the plant leaves, is going to feed your worker, because you have to feed these guys hamburgers. Yeah, food. They look like hamburgers, but they're food. And you're going to feed them that food because they have to be fed. So you're worried about getting food. But if you don't want to worry about feeding your workers, put one of those green plant things on your worker. He gets his food automatically. You don't have to worry about it no more. The purple one gives you as a multiplier for doubling the points when you go to a worker placement space that gives you points. And then the red one allows you a little bit of player interaction. You can bump into a worker spot that another player has already put their worker on, because normally you can't do that. But if you got those lobster claws on there on your worker, you can put that worker into a space that's already being used. So you're thinking about all of that as you're playing this game. It is a creative worker placement game, and you will find new ways to manipulate your game strategy in various ways because of those components you can choose when you're building those workers. It's so much fun. The first time I played it, I thought, man, I mean, there's so many different things to think about, and you can chain react so much in this game. The board is gorgeous. It's a nice publishing job by TMG, who's out of business. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. But you can still get this game relatively inexpensive, Chimera Station. And Lori and I love this game. It's a unique take on worker placement, as is Hickory Dickory. And those are my 2 games that I wanted to talk about that did worker placement a little bit differently. Hey, that's it for today's video. I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about in this video. So that's it. That's my worker placement video. I've never done one. We have a lot of worker placement games, again, that we really love to play, and I showed you some of them, and I hope you get an opportunity to play these if you haven't already. And go to your local game store, and maybe they will let you play some games or teach you some games, and that is a great resource. If you are here in Central Florida, make sure you stop by the Haven here in Castleberry game store, run by a young man named Matt, and I think he has a business partner, but some wonderful young people in that store. Stop in and see them and tell them the Bones Collector sent you. I think they'll enjoy hearing that. And I use them for a resource to get games. I just purchased 2 games from them last week, I think. So yeah, I like to support local businesses, and game stores find it very difficult to make a living. So I want them to stay here, the Haven and Castleberry, so I make sure I go in there and buy a game from them once in a while. But hey, that's it for today. Please make sure you like and subscribe. It has tremendous value for our videos. I'm sorry that it's been so long since I've done a video, but hopefully we'll have another one coming out. We're going to start our Ultimate Top 100 video series here pretty soon. I'm going to have my wife Lori doing hers with me, so that's going to be kind of unique and different. And I love every one of you. Keep on board gaming. It's the best hobby on the planet. And if you have any comments at all about any of the games you've seen that I showed you here today. Any questions about how to play them or anything you might have, please leave a comment. It helps also when you comment on our videos. Thank you so much. I love every one of you for watching, and I'll see you the next time here on The Bones Collector. Bye-bye.